Hello and welcome to Oh Yes You Can, the podcast that speaks to rule breakers, people who are creating their own paths and their own careers in life. Today I am here with James Barker, who is the Managing Director of Onelink Media. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. So I'm just going to say we have already recorded this once before, but the camera failed us. So thank you for your second time on the podcast. No, take two. Hopefully it's as good as the first one. If not, we'll just use the bad content from the first one.
Of course. Fingers crossed.
So if just to begin with, you can just talk a little bit about what you do and Onelink Media as a business.
Yeah, of course. So thanks for having me on first and foremost. So I'm James Barker, Managing Director of Onelink Media. We're a marketing business, so we're a performance marketing agency. We work with e-commerce brands, but also B2C and B2B brands, and help them scale online. So we deliver cross-channel campaigns through a mix of sort of paid social, PPC, organic content marketing, all with the objective really of increasing brands' revenue from their online efforts.
Amazing. And you started the business, you co-founded the business at the start of the pandemic.
Correct, yeah.
Just talk to me about that crazy decision to start a business in the pandemic.
So I rolled off a graduate scheme just before the pandemic hit, actually. And I think it was a good timing in a sense, because I think there was a lot more time to reflect and really spend time to build the business up from ground level. But it was a really interesting experience. I think we didn't see clients in person for about a year and a half.
Wow.
So it was we were working from my family home with Ben, my co-founder. So I think in some ways it was a positive, because I think the time that we had to build it and really spend was definitely helped us in those early stages.
Yeah.
But a very crazy time, and I mean digital really spiked in that period. So I suppose that was good from a timing point of view as well.
Yeah. What made you make that decision? I mean, have you always known that you would work for yourself, or was it a kind of opportunistic moment in your kind of life and timeline?
Yeah. It's really interesting, because I think from an early age, I sort of thought I had I thought I might own my own business.
You just knew.
So sort of just knew, which is really hard to explain, because I don't really know how to. But there was always something where I wanted something of my own, and I think even people close to me sort of said, "Oh, I could see you doing that." So I suppose that's really interesting. But where it started for me was, I was fortunate enough when I was probably about 15 or 16 to go and work with a friend who had a marketing agency in Mayfair.
Amazing.
And that was a brilliant experience, because I'm quite a visual person. Yeah. So I think I went in there in sort of a business development role, but had a good spread of the business and got a really good view of what that marketing business looks like. And I think being able to experience that really just lit a fire in me, and I wanted to do something similar. So fortunate enough that experience really probably pushed me on.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And so you are actually the first entrepreneur that we've had on that has a co-founder, and I know that you've had another partner in the business before that.
Yeah.
Just talk to me a bit about what it's like to work with other people that closely, and that relationship that you have.
Yeah. It's a really interesting relationship, and I think when you have to get right, I think the first thing is, I think if you can find a partner and it's the right partner, emphasis on it being the right partner, I think that can be really helpful. Sure, entrepreneurship can be relatively lonely, and it's and it's difficult. So being able to have someone that you can sort of bounce ideas off and have a bit of a support system with is fantastic. And obviously we bring different things into the business. So I suppose as an early stage, we were able to sort of cover different parts of the business and speed up that growth. So I think but emphasis on you need the right partner is definitely challenging. I think it's a super long-term relationship, and it's really important that you get all cards out on the table really early on, and ensure you sort of vision-wise are aligning in the right way. Like you said, we've had other partners in the business, and sometimes that doesn't work out, and you have to go your separate ways, which is a part of life. But for me, it's definitely been beneficial, because it's great to have someone to share the highs, but also the lows with.
Definitely. I guess that you talk about emphasis on the right person.
Yes.
I guess there has to be a lot of trust in that relationship. Just talk to me a bit about the relationship that you have with Ben.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you live together.
Yeah.
Did you go to university together? Is that
correct.
how you met?
Yeah. So it's pretty 24/7. I met Ben at university in our first year. So we lived together throughout uni, sort of went on this journey together. And I think Thankfully, we have, it's almost, I'd say, like a brother relationship, which is interesting because that doesn't work all the time.
No.
And there are definitely instances. I've got friends that have business partners and they keep things very separate.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate enough that we've had a great relationship from the start. And like you said, we live together and we sort of live and breathe the business as you do when you have to try and scale and with our goals and where we'd like to go. It really is a 24/7 thing. So yeah, Ben, and he has a completely different skill set to me as well. So like we complement each other really well.
Yeah.
And we have a great relationship. So
well, that's good to hear because I think that is really rare.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is very lonely. So to have that, I think is really amazing and a testament to that relationship that you have clearly. So what's the hardest thing about working for yourself and what keeps you motivated to continue when times do get really tough?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the hardest thing is trying to think of how to word it. I think the first thing is probably the buck stops with you. So there's obviously a lot of responsibility there. We employ people. There's a responsibility to them and things like that. So I think that can be really challenging sometimes. It's 24/7 and it's constant. It's probably the second part to that. So not only does it stop with you, but it's really difficult to switch off. I think sometimes when you do, well, from my experience, relationships and things like that can suffer, with friends and just because of your time and how you have to allocate it. So they're things that I'm trying to get better at. I think it's an ongoing process, but that's definitely some of the hardest things. And then the second part is around
motivation. What keeps you motivated?
Yeah, I think just our goals. We know where we want to get to. I think that scaling a business and being able to bring new people in and sort of bringing them into the team and watching them grow and progress is fantastic. But really, I think motivation itself is an interesting topic because I don't think motivation is something that's constant.
Yeah,
it's like a bit like if you go to the gym, you can have motivation for a week, but how are you going to continue to turn up? So I think if you have a goal or if you have something which aligns with what you want to do yourself, I think it's you just continue to push and you have to have that bit of sort of the ability to be able to push through adversity, and that is really important, I think.
Have you had any moments where you've just gone, this isn't for me, actually I'm just going to go and find a job, have a stable income, and know exactly how my life is going to work from day to day, week to week, month to month?
Good question. So no never to that extent, where because I've always knew that this is what I wanted to do. But have there been difficult times? Yeah, for sure. I think when you grow a marketing agency, especially, and I know it's like that for all sorts of businesses, but when I speak to other founders in the space, they would say there's always one thing on fire at one time, at least. So as you're trying to scale and push through barriers, there are some really difficult challenges that come up, and they are hard. But I think if you want to do something, you really just have to push through and keep that fire.
What are those moments where you just go, yes, this is amazing and I'm so pleased that this is what I do?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first one has to come down to the people element. I think being able to grow that team, watching people progress, achieve their own goals is fantastic. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things that can happen. And secondly, just getting closer towards what we're trying to achieve. So I think obviously any business owner would say new business is fantastic. So really sort of game-changing landmark contracts is a time of complete elation and really enjoyable. So probably those two, and also just being able to, although you say you have to sacrifice time, you have some control of your time, and the ability to sort of to have that is quite important and something that I relish.
Yeah. So I know that you won a new client just before Christmas. So just talk to me about that, how the team kind of came together and how it made you feel. Yeah.
So I think when you win new business, it's fantastic. But especially the time of year where we won that client, it was obviously quite a significant contract for the business. It was in the run up to Christmas, so as everyone was sort of dialing down. But I think that's where we come into our own in a way. I think we pride ourselves on being an agile business. You have to be. We're also quite a young business, so I think we took the mantle there and really come together as a team to produce something. And I think one of the other things that's really rewarding about that experience was obviously going against potentially larger agencies in the space. And I think when we come down to what we want to be as a business and our positioning, it's really that performance, whatever it takes, and going the extra mile for our customers. So I think being able to sort of pitch in that way and show how we can sort of deliver this performance at such great speed was fantastic and a massive win. And we actually found out about the contract 2 hours before we broke up for the end of the year. So
you could go and celebrate.
Yeah. So we were straight to the pub as a team, and it was a really good way to see out the year. So yeah, nice. really good.
Nice. And you talk about your mantra being results, whatever it takes. I mean, that's quite a sharp, pointy statement, because I mean that really, if you're positioning yourselves as that, you have to be willing to follow up and back that. You know, how do you make sure that, you know, you can really deliver upon results, whatever it takes? And what does that really truly mean to you?
Yeah, of course. I think that's a great question. I think first and foremost, how we set up the business is aligned to that in a way. So we've removed account managers from our business. So the first thing I think in terms of trying to drive performance at speed is the clarity piece. So we try and enable our clients to have direct access to the sort of experts in whatever given field or department, with the belief that obviously that transparency and speeding up that communication line enables clarity, and Makes sense. Think that enables results at speed. I think, like you said, it's interesting because I know in the industry as a whole, you know, there's performance guarantees with some places and some things not. So it's really difficult, but it's how we operate, and it's our mentality. You know, whatever it takes, the results is about our team and our ethos of getting stuck in, going the extra mile, and there's almost no such word as no. You know, there's always a workaround, and I think we're trying to breed that culture, and hopefully clients are seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah, I really like that, because I do think it's a very kind of sharp statement, but equally it's another way of saying actually anything's possible.
Yeah, of course.
And we're not going to, you know, say, well, we can't do that because, and I think that mentality is missing in so many businesses. You know, so many people say, this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
My least favourite phrase. So I really like that about your organisation and business.
Brilliant.
In terms of, you know, this is a podcast about entrepreneurs, about rule breakers, about people who just want to do something differently.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody listening to this podcast, maybe thinking about quitting their job or starting something up? You know, do you think that anybody can create a business? You know, what's your advice in that space?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because the last part there, do you think anyone? Absolutely. But I think first and foremost, I think you have to ask that question within yourself. It's not for everyone. I think in the modern day, entrepreneurship sort of glamorized, and you see that everywhere. But the reality is slightly different to that. So I think you have to have that honest conversation with yourself. You know, if you're someone that values all your time, or you might have other passions outside. You know, I think to be successful, you really have to give it everything you've got. So that's an interesting question. So understanding yourself is probably point one, which is difficult depending on what stage of life you are and things like that, but definitely worthwhile to ask that question. I think when you go into what advice do I have, I think the first thing is surround yourself with good people, so positive people as well. You know, I think we all know that the saying that you're sort of the cumulative of the 4 or 5 people you hang around with. So that, and I hear that saying everywhere. So I'm sure most people are aware of that, but it's definitely true. So if that means you need to change your situation, or try and sort of connect with other people, potentially people that have already been there and done that in the field, or in just in the general in entrepreneurship, I think that's super beneficial.
Yeah, I agree.
I think most of the time you'll be surprised how open they will be as well. I feel like anyone that's trying to do something in the space, if someone comes to me, I'll be more than happy to give some time and share any advice, because ultimately we all start in the same place.
We're all in it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really refreshing that is there, because that's what I've experienced even when speaking to other people.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, that's really positive. So yeah, definitely surround yourself and try and seek people that maybe have been there or done that, or might be able to provide some value. And then I suppose it goes into you've just got to start. You know, I think it's really easy to say, okay, I've got an idea, I'm going to do something. You can spend hours researching on YouTube, TikTok, whatever your platform might be, but it starts when you do it. and it's really daunting, but it's one step at a time. And I think depending on what you're doing, you could reach out to family members. I think working for free is very, you have to look at it from a longer term perspective. You need to get for example, if it's a digital role, to get your case studies up, or just to get the experience to be able to go and pitch to other clients. So I think working for free is sometimes underrated, but when you look at it a longer term view, that's an invaluable experience and builds them first building blocks to be able to go and sell your services to other people and businesses.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm actually going to ask you a question about something that I experienced in a meeting a couple of weeks ago. So we were actually in the same meeting, albeit you were in the UK, I was in Istanbul. And you were being introduced to the chairman of the business.
Yeah.
And when you introduced yourself as the managing director of Onelink Media, there were lots of eyebrow raises around the room. And there was a real kind of, he's the managing director. But he's about 12. He's really young. He's the managing director. Is that something you experience often? And how does that make you feel? Do you face barriers because you are a young managing director of a business?
It's really interesting because I think even that insight that you've said, I don't know if I picked up on that as much as maybe someone else would. That was looking in, partly probably because I was focused on the call, but there are barriers. I think I have experienced that throughout, sort of, especially in the early stages. I think as you go on and you start to build a bit more rapport and a bit more awareness in the market, that can help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting one because I feel like I don't pay too much attention to it.
Okay.
But also, it's absolutely something that happens, and I think if anything, it motivates me more. Because what we can do is the work speaks for itself, and hopefully, that there shouldn't be any barriers because of age or any other sort of thing like that. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think something you do experience, but I think it just motivates me more to show capability earlier on and sort of knock them barriers down.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's great that you can kind of ignore that. I mean, I found it really amusing. I mean, in today's world, there are so many more young business owners, managing directors, etc. But there's still quite an old school way of thinking in bigger businesses, and that was a bigger corporation. Yeah. So, but have you found age a barrier as you've built your business? Has it caused any challenges, or no, has it not?
To be completely honest, we've experienced bits, but I don't think it's been a barrier to what we've tried to do. I think we're probably fortunate that the marketing is relatively young in the industry in itself, and digital marketing. But I think if I had experienced any of it, it's back to the same point. It just motivates us more to go out and prove people wrong. I suppose there's older people within our organisation, so as the people get to know the team, it's not. I suppose they get a wider range of who we are. But I think you have to be merited on your experience and what you're doing, instead of sort of just looking at age as a factor. So it's an interesting question though, and one that I probably haven't given as much thought to as maybe others. So it's really interesting.
And don't, by the way, I hadn't. I wondered whether you picked up on it or not. It's a massive compliment. I mean, I often say this to you, and I hear myself say it, and then go, "Don't be condescending," and I'm not being condescending. But actually, you are one of the youngest managing directors I know, but also one of the best, actually, in terms of your drive, your energy, and I think this goes through your entire organisation. So it's definitely a compliment from me. But I had wondered whether there were barriers that you found along the way. I think age is an interesting one. So you talk about how you have older team members within your business. What's the dynamic there in terms of older people in your business reporting into a younger board? Has that caused any challenges, or again, is that not something you've faced?
Again, maybe haven't thought about it as much as I could have. I think when we brought our first couple of team members in, and some of them were older, I think that there was a little bit of a concern there because it's not the usual situation, so to speak. But I think obviously as they come into the team and they understand what we've built today, and also sort of how we want to work in our organisation, I don't think we want to limit anyone by not just age but role. I think we want to build an environment where the best answer in the room wins, and that doesn't matter what level you are. And it's just someone can come in for 2 weeks and have a better idea than me and overwrite that. Like we're all for that. I think that's how you really push change and get the best out of people and your culture. So
Great to hear. I mean, you've spoken a bit about how you become like the people you surround yourself with. I couldn't agree more. I think it's quite simple to understand in that sense, really. But how do you find those people? Like, how have you attracted the right people into your world, and who are your role models? Who do you look up to? How do you make sure that you are surrounded by those people, and that you're not connecting with people who maybe bring some of your energy down?
I think you have to be strict with it and aware, in terms of you're absolutely right. Like if you surround you, I think you can feel when you're in an environment that doesn't really work for what you're trying to do, and you can often come away from scenarios like that quite demotivated. So I think you have to be sort of aware of what environments you're stepping into and what works for you and what doesn't. Seeking out helps really interesting. I suppose from a more professional view and the business, we would always want to speak to people that have gone further than us. So obviously our ultimate goal is to exit the business. So we will speak to different either mentors or people that are more growth consultant led and things like that, to just to get the knowledge and build that rapport and relationship. So I think ultimately, the best way to learn is from people that have already been there and done it. And the majority of the time, when you are experiencing challenges, they've seen them challenges, and you can jump over hurdles a little bit faster. And I think just actively seeking as well. So within networks and coming across people, whether it be professionally or just personally, I think I always want to learn. I always want to ask questions, and I think you quickly realise if you're talking to someone that you can probably build a bit more of a longer term relationship with. So that's really important to sort of establish those. But I mean, social media is brilliant. You can find anyone,
connect with anyone you like.
Yeah, of course. And there's no harm in sending a message. The worst that can happen is nothing's going to be responded.
They ghost
you. Yeah, exactly. So I've had a few of those as well. But
me too. I think they say you're not a business owner until you've had 200 doors slammed in your face through either no's or lost sales, whatever that might be. So hopefully you're a seasoned business owner and you've had all of them.
I might have a few doors left.
How many do you think you're on?
A few, but I think it's a roller coaster, right? It's up and down, and but it's part of the experience. So.
So I was going to ask you what your ultimate goal was, but you touched on it in terms of it's to build to exit the business. So actually, I'm going to ask you it a slightly different way. Roll forward 5-10 years, whatever that might be, and you've exited your business. You've sold your business for millions. I'm sure that's the plan, the dream.
Hopefully.
Then what? What happens after that?
That's a great question. I think that I would go to a beach holiday pretty quickly and probably have a rest for a week.
Just a week.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think this is why it's such a great question, because I almost don't know what else. I imagine I'll be doing something very similar, different business, different circumstances, but I don't think I could switch off.
No.
So I'd like to think maybe I'd take the family away for a couple of weeks or something, but I think it would just be straight back to it. I think once you're in this sort of way of working, like you said, there are challenges, but ultimately it's a buzz you get, and that's almost why I do it and why I love it. So I imagine I'd be doing growing another business or staying busy with other things.
Yeah, and I think that's the true mark of an entrepreneur, isn't it? When you have it inside you, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I feel exactly the same. Do you think you can teach somebody that, that essence, that core of an entrepreneur, someone who just wants to build, wants to grow? Do you think you either have it or you don't?
Wow. Cool. Can you teach someone that? I think obviously people have it to a higher degree already, and I think you can see that there's a personality type just from the data that really excels in entrepreneurship. I'm talking from my experience. I think you have to have some of that drive, because it's almost like it's a bit like we talk about goalkeepers in football, and they might have a bit of a screw loose because they're protecting balls that are coming in at high speeds and things like that. So I think it's a challenging thing to do. So I think you have to you have to want to do that initially. But I think a lot of skills within entrepreneurship you can absolutely learn, and like I'm learning every day, and I think that so is every other entrepreneur. So a lot of it you can learn, but I think that initial fire is really difficult. I don't really know, is your honest opinion, but from my side, that's definitely helped pull me on, and people that I speak to that are in similar positions definitely have that. Yeah. So I imagine it's a bit of a blend of the both.
Yeah. Okay. No, interesting. I really like the goalie. Example. Very interesting. Yeah, you do have to have a bit of a screw loose to want to be in that position, don't you? So is that what you're saying we are as entrepreneurs? We've all got a bit of a screw loose, potentially. So I'm just going to track you now back to the very start of when you started your business.
Yeah.
Was there any fear there? I mean, fear is such a powerful emotion, but somehow you created this business in the pandemic. Probably at the point at which most people would have said the worst time to start a business, don't do it, go into a stable job, make sure you're secure. Would you do it differently, or actually would you do the same and break through that fear?
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd do much differently. I think the time and things really interesting, because when is the right time? If it wasn't that, it could have been something else. Obviously, we're going through challenges with the economy and things like that now. Imagine if you turn to someone and said, I'm going to start now, they go, oh, is that the right time to do it? So it's really interesting. I don't think I'd do anything differently. I think in terms of risk and that, were you worried about things? I think I was fortunate enough that in a stage of life where it was almost a risk-free punt, because I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have sort of that much responsibility financially. So it was sort of like this is the time is now, and this is the best time to capitalize. But I think if you're in a different situation, there's obviously can be more risk, and it's really scary, moving from something that might be a stable income.
You're telling me?
Yeah, absolutely. But I admire it. But if I looked at it from my position, I think it's the same thing. It's like if you're going to go for it, you've just got to go for it. And there's no time like the present. So you've just got to capitalise on it and push.
Agree. So there's nothing that you would do differently if you could go back and start again.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be some things in terms of. I think but the reason I say no is I think they're all learning experience. Yeah, I think what's crafted me to this point today, and hopefully continues in the future, is not only the positives but the negatives, and they're all really valuable experiences that you have to learn from. So I imagine there would be some stuff we definitely do earlier. I think looking at things like, especially as a first-time business owner, really understanding finance and getting into that world. Yes. I think there's some probably better decisions we could have made earlier, but also the wrong decisions caused us to probably get our heads in that game a little bit more and do it. So yes, there is, but I think first and foremost, I have no regrets, and those experiences have built who and what Onelink is today. So
such great attitude. I love it. If you weren't doing what you were doing now, what would you be? What did you want to be when you were younger, beyond an entrepreneur? A fireman, a policeman?
Yeah. Well, if I could pick, I'd probably be a F1 driver. Because I'd travel the world. And
do you like driving fast?
Yeah, fast cars and driving the world would be amazing. But I don't know. I think I'm probably more inclined to a sales, more of sales roles, because I think for me, like I really enjoy, even with the business, is just speaking to different people, connecting with people. So I think. I could see myself in a sales role, and I think it would then go to sort of passions and stuff. Like I love sport, like all sport and things like that, particularly like American sport and things. So if there was an opportunity to go that way, maybe I'd do that, or something that sport related.
At the end of this podcast, I always like to ask, that one bit of advice. So just a small phrase or something that if somebody was looking to start their own business, to become an entrepreneur, what would it be? Just really succinctly, what would you tell them? And please don't say, don't do it.
Yeah, but it's very similar to that. I'd just say do it. And to do it to me means start, like it's all about action. I think what day one is day one, and you build from that and you gain momentum. So like anyone that is sitting here listening to this that thinks, I feel like I really want to do something, or I have a passion, I want to pursue it. I think my first bit of advice would be just go for it. you only get one life, and if that's what you want to do, you've really got to go for it.
Yeah, agree. I wanted you to say, "Oh yes, you can."
The name of the podcast. Well, pretty much the same concept.
Just a different way to say it.
Yeah.
Next time I'll brief you beforehand.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
for a second time. It's been great to
you.
speak to you and hear your story. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.